Hey, everybody, welcome back. Devin, the OG, the original Grognard for Lock and Load Publishing, and we are sitting down and we are back playing World at War 85 at this year's virtual Armchair Dragoons Virtual Con this entire weekend. We got a great scenario today. This is going to be a beginner training scenario. We're doing scenario 1, Storming the Gap, and we have award-winning designer Keith Tracton with us today.
Hi.
And we were supposed to have 4 people, but so far only 1 has showed up, and we're hoping the other people will filter in quickly. Will filter in as time goes on. Our individual player that we have with us today is Art. Art, go ahead and say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into the game.
Hello, everybody. I found the time period interesting, and I saw some of the YouTube games Devin played, so I bought it when it came out, and then the pandemic intervened. So I'm here today to try to figure out how to play it.
And that's what we're here for. So Keith, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over. I'm going to go silent for a little bit while I spread the wonderful message that we're playing this to all the interweb sites out there. So take over, sir.
Alrighty. So Art, I'm going to go with the basics. Basically the turn structure, the sequence of play. It's roughly, we're going to make a deck of cards. You see the cards on the player aid, that giant player aid on the one side. There's one Soviet card that's red. There's 2 end operations cards, and there's 2 NATO US cards. We're going to form that into the formations deck. We're going to shuffle that, which electronically it gets shuffled much better than in real life sometimes. And then we're going to pull cards to see what order things happen. So when you pull a card for the U.S. units will be activated and will go. When you pull a card for the Soviets go. So you notice that one of the conceits of the game is that NATO has a better command loop. So the U.S. is going to get to go twice, possibly, and the Soviets will get to do it once. The end operations cards, there's 2 of them because the first time you pull one, all it is a warning shot. It basically says that when the second card is pulled, then the operations phase is over. Once the operations phase is over, and that's when you do your movement and your combat, then we're going to have the marker removal phase, which is a logistical maintenance phase, and then we'll go on to the next turn. Turns proceed pretty quickly. I'm going to start with basically when you activate a formation, and let me throw some units on the map here. So let's just say these guys here. So we've got the green guys. I'm going to zoom in so I can actually put these in some hexes. So you see the green color band on the US units? That means they're from the same formation. The white color band basically is an attachment, and that allows us to give some variety to various orders of battle. So let me, Jeep Tow, one of my favorite little toys. All right, so let's say that's your US formation. And the Soviets, let's say they have here. Bring in 3 platoons of T-80s, and I'll bring in the HQ because I'm going to use that as part of the example at some point. So whenever I'm teaching a combat game, the first thing I do is start with a shot, because that's sort of what we want to know is, well, how do we shoot other things? So I'm going to give you a quick tour of the counter. So can you zoom into, let's say, this T-80 counter here?
Yep, I sure can.
All right. So, and then Art, if you can zoom in there just so you can see the value, the numbers comfortably, and let me know when you're there.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. So the upper left group of 3 numbers is your armor piercing values, and I won't go into what the 3 numbers are yet. The upper right group are your high explosive values. The lower left group is your defense. It's your armor save value. The number in the circle in the middle on the bottom is your movement point allowance, and then the lower right is your assault value. So all these different numbers, the groupings basically are the things that shoot are on top, the things that defend are on the bottom, with the exception of assault, of course, which is a combat value. So in the upper left group, which is the armor piercing, of course, is used against vehicles. Vehicles will have a vehicle symbol of some sort, and non-vehicles will have a NATO symbol. So you see the infantry just to the left of the T-80 we were looking at, that has a NATO symbol. So that is a non-vehicle target. Back to the T-80, the upper left group basically reads as range of 12, 3 dice, 3 firepower dice, and each die needs to make a 4 or higher, a 4, 5, or 6, in order to score a potential hit. And then if I fire those, let's say, at this M1 Abrams, whatever number of hits I score with the T-80, say I scored with all 3, the Abrams gets to roll defensively, and its armor save is that lower left 4 with a superscript of 5, which again is 4 dice to make a 5 or 6. And then, so it's an interactive roll. The 4 versus 5, let's say we rolled 2 saves, we call them, then 2 of those 3 hits would go away, and only 1 hit would be scored. Oh, and now I'm echoing.
Yeah, I've got multiple devices that I'm keeping an eye on for different chat rooms. So that was one of them, and I forgot to push the volume down.
Thank you very much. So if you would do me a favor, Art, if you would just zoom out a little bit and basically fire that T-80 at that M1. You've got 3 dice, and you need a 4, 5, or 6 on any of the die will score a hit. So, and that's basically if you press the 3 on the dice-o-matic. Or roll 3 dice in there. That works too. There you go. All right. It looks like there's 1 die that's a 4 or higher, so that's 1 hit. And then if you wouldn't mind rolling the defense of the M1, since that's fun too, and roll 4 dice, and we'll see if that hit is saved. Any 5s or 6s? Yeah, there's 1 5. Okay, so that was a dead heat. So basically the M1 is not affected by that shot. But that's the way combat works. There are variations on this. The range is divided into 3 pieces. The printed range is effective range. Half of that, rounded down, is point blank range, and you'll get a bonus for firing. So technically you should have had a bonus for that, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute. And then up to from beyond the printed range to double the printed range is long range, and you would get a penalty for that. So there's point blank bonus, effective range, and long range penalty. The bonus is the number that you're rolling against for the T-80. So 3 dice to make 4, 5, or 6 is the result. If you get a point blank bonus, it basically decreases that number of my 1, which makes you more effective. So instead of needing 4s, 5s, or 6s, you need 3s, 4s, 5s, or 6s. So those T-80s get very, very effective when you're at a range of 6 or less. Okay? If the T-80 is firing at, say, 13 or higher, now that number goes up by 1, and it would be 3 dice to make 5. There are, I will go into something kind of directly only because both tanks here use them. The orange triangle is is a defensive bonus. It's reactive or composite armor. It's actually composite for the M1 and reactive for the T-80, but still, it gives an extra die. What am I thinking? Oh my god! It gives an extra die to the defense when you're shot at by anti-tank guided missiles. So the orange numbers that you see in the groupings on the upper left and the upper right, that's enhanced move and fire. That is if you get to move. You're allowed to choose as an action moving and firing, and the farther you go, the more of a penalty you'll take. But the enhanced move and fire means you're going to take less of a penalty. Everything can move and fire. It's just that if you don't have this orange number, this enhanced move and fire, like the infantry to the left there, it can only go half of its movement rounded down before it's not permitted to go farther than that and move and fire. But the enhanced move and fire breaks into 2 categories. One is NATO, and that's NATO in general. So the M1 Abrams, this would apply to. It can move up to half with no penalty to its firing. And then it can move from more than half to its total movement and lose 1 firepower die. So for the M1, in the upper left group, where it says 4 dice to make 5, it would become 3 dice to make 5. For the T-80, because it's Soviet, it's a little bit, the stabilization is not as good on the gun. So if it goes up to half, it's going to, let me make sure I get this right, because I don't have the chart in front of me. If it goes up to half, it will lose 1 die. So it'll be 2 dice to make 4. And if it goes up to its full movement, it will lose 2 dice. And now it's 1 die to make 4. Any unit that doesn't have enhanced movement fire, if it moves at all, is going to lose 2 dice. It means that you can keep your attack going, basically. I'm going to stop here. and ask you if you have any questions, because that was a lot to take in. But that's sort of the heart of what we're doing, is getting these guys in range to shoot at each other.
Okay, so essentially the bonus for close range is an extra die.
It's the bonus for close range is it's easier to hit.
It's easy.
Think of it this way: if you're closer, it's easier to hit.
Okay.
So the hit number, that right hand number in the 3-number grouping, goes down by 1.
All right.
And then if you're farther away, it's harder to hit. Now, the way terrain works, I'm going to move this T80 into the woods on a height next to a rough hex. It's in woods, and there is a terrain effects chart that's off to the left there. But basically, most terrains will give you what's called a 1-die defensive bonus. A defensive bonus means you're in a terrain that's going to help your defense. So defensive bonus is typically an extra save die. Excuse me. So that 4 dice to make 5 in the lower corner, which is the armor save, and the 4 is the armor value. 4 dice becomes 5 dice to make 5 because of the woods. Now, it just so happens, if that M1 down there was firing, the T80 is sitting on a hill. How do you know he's on a hill? Do you see the white contour line that it's sitting next to? And that makes a contiguous shape. Anything on that line or inside that line is on that hill. The M1 is outside of that contour, and so it's down on level 0, unless it's inside, on another hill. But in this case, for as an example, it's down in the valley there. So when you are fired upon and your platoon is higher than the platoon that's firing on you, you're going to get yet another defensive die. So now it's got 6 dice to make 5. Heavy armor, which is anything with a vehicle symbol and an armor save value in the lower left, they're only permitted to get 2 additional dice for defense, period. So if there are situations, concealment, for example, which we'll go over real fast at some point, where you might get a 3rd die, you don't actually get that. There's a maximum defensive bonus, is what it's called, of 2 dice. Infantry, so this infantry in the valley here, if he were here, he would get, first of all, he gets a different value for the woods. He gets 2 for the woods. He'd get 1 for the hill. That's 3 dice. If he were concealed as well, which means that he does not, he hasn't been used already. He's in good order. He doesn't have an ops complete marker.
If I could break in real quick, Andrew, you've hopped in. Are you one of the participants of the game today? Mr. Roland? Or are you just observing? And if you're trying to speak, your mic isn't. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yeah, just popped in from Australia. I'm still finding my way around the conference.
Okay, so you're just observing. Not a problem. Watch away, please enjoy. And back to you.
Happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, our pleasure. Thanks for popping by. So anyway, so this infantry, concealment is basically if you haven't fired or moved or done anything in line of sight where you'd have an ops complete marker to indicate that, and you don't have there's no recon unit that's close to you. There's a couple of conditions, but we'll leave it at that for the moment. You get yet again an extra defensive die. So this infantry actually gets 4 defensive dice. Now the difference between an infantry unit, if you look in the lower left corner of the infantry unit, it has an S in a gold circle. That's a soft target. It only gets dice from the defensive bonus terrain. It doesn't have an armor save value. The Jeep is yet another variation where it's a vehicle that has a symbol. It too is a soft target, and it too only gets dice from terrain that it occupies. So if this infantry unit is in clear terrain and not on a hill, it doesn't have any defensive dice. So any hits get scored. So it behooves you to look for, to keep an eye on terrain, as would happen in real life. That's kind of the attacking, defending interaction. Do you feel comfortable enough for us to sort of go into the metagaming of how this all fits into the turn sequence?
Sure.
Okay. So, Devin, if you do me a favor and
Yes,
and shuffle the deck.
Woohoo, I can do that.
Because you're faster at that than I am. And we're going to do 2 things. One is we're basically going to play with the units as they are right now, as an example. Although I am going to grab... I did grab an HQ. Okay. I'm going to show you how the turn works, but before we actually run the deck, there's one thing that we haven't done, which is this particular scenario indicates that the Soviets have what's called the initiative. It's only for the first turn, and it's like, there's different ways to think about it, but it's sort of like a pre-turn. It's a free activation for a particular Soviet formation. Now, there's only one formation on each side, but this game starts with the Soviets having the first activation. Now, they wouldn't be starting here, but we're going to do that. So this means, A, we haven't even pulled a card from the deck, and the Soviets are activated. So let's say they had been on the map already, and they had done some shooting, and some of them were ops complete and some were not. The first thing we do in an activation is we take off the ops complete mark, and they are refreshed. There are some various statuses there. The U.S. have some missile units, notably this Jeep Tow here, and you can tell because in its upper left grouping, it has a green 4. Green indicates that it's missiles. They can run out of ammo with that, so there may be an ammo status, and if they were reloading, this would be the time when they would reload it, but the Soviets don't have that. The first thing the Soviets do after they refresh is they're going to place their HQ. You can place your HQ on any unit in the formation. So if it's here, it just can bump right over here, which we're going to do. Okay. The reason the position of the HQ is important is, and now we do have to, I guess, pull a card here. I'm just going to. Oh, look, it's the right one. Got to get lucky when it counts. All right. The HQ card, I'm going to bring it in a little closer so we don't have to zoom out too much, has 3 values. It has the name of the unit. It has the nationality, of course. That 6 is the formation's morale training value. That's a 2 die 6 value. So anytime you're using that, you're going to roll 2 die 6 and try to roll that number underneath for various game functions, taking off disruptions, reloading, etc. And we'll cue you for those to be sure. But the 4 and the 3, the 4 is the command range from that HQ marker to any unit that is in command. So we're going to determine whether the Soviets are in command. The 3 is when that HQ happens to have taken some casualties and is therefore, or some status where it's reduced, to put it on its reduced side. When it's on the reduced side, it uses the 3. When it's on the front side, it uses the 4. Okay. In this case, it's 4, so we're going to check for command. That's one of the sub-steps of our formation activation. So every Soviet unit within 4 hexes of this HQ is in command. So therefore, everybody's in command. Now, what happens when you're out of command? You get a nice shiny out of command marker, and then you and I'm not going to grab one just for the sake of speak. You get a nice shiny out of command marker, and that means that you cannot move. You may use opportunity fire, which we'll get into, but you can't actually move. So you can defend yourself, but you can't go anywhere, which can be annoying. Most of the time, also the Soviets tend to have a smaller command range than NATO does. So NATO has fewer units, but a little more flexibility, and Soviets are more condensed. It's sort of a subtle way of inducing doctrine without actually having doctrine rules, because the Soviets were, definitely doctrine oriented. But let's say, as a quick example, this Soviet tank platoon was over here. Now, in a lot of games, when you're outside the command range, you're done. You can't do anything. But in World War 85 series, you can take a calculated risk at any time, because just because you're out of the command range doesn't mean you're out of command. It means each hex of such units that's out of that range rolls 2 die 6 against that morale training value on the card of 6. If they roll a 6 or less, they're in command. Now, NATO tends to be a 7. So again, that's another slight difference that makes the difference. As anyone who has ever rolled dice for a dice game knows, if the chance of rolling a 7 is significantly more than rolling a 6, but a 6 ain't too shabby. But the idea here is that if that tank platoon up here rolled a 6 or less on 2 die 6, it's in command and can do everything it normally would do. So there are moments when you simply will, have units straggling out and trailing, and that's how units get strung out, and it's how it's reflected in this game. But for right now, they're all going to be here. I had them here. Okay. So we've checked for command. Everybody's in command. If there were reloading to do for the U.S., and it was the U.S. activation, we would check for that. If there were any off-board artillery, we would use that now. There isn't in this scenario, so we don't have to worry about that. And then we get into the action step. The action step is where the rubber hits the road, or the treads hit the road, as the case may be. The action step is where each individual stack or unit can choose an action. The actions are pretty simple. It's move, which means use your movement allowance to move across the map. Pay the costs that are on the terrain effects chart. And I'll give you a real quick terrain effects right here. Going uphill adds 1. So this is 1, 2, 3. Going into woods is 2 for vehicles. 4, 5. Going into rough, it can't, because rough is 3 for vehicles. Infantry have it slightly better. I believe, I don't even remember my own chart. I believe they do get a +1 going uphill, but that's just about it. They pretty much can, they only have 3 movement points, but they can, for example, go into woods for a cost of 1. Going downhill doesn't cost anybody anything. Going into cities, which is important in this scenario, it only costs infantry 1. Costs vehicles 2, and that's a significant thing. All right, in terms of costs, you basically can't spend any more movement points than you have on your counter. And again, there's the move and fire consideration. But if you choose a movement action, you're not going to be moving and firing. You're just moving. If you choose a direct fire action, it means you're going to shoot, as we just showed an example of. That's an example of direct fire when we fired that T-80 at the M1. Again, I'm not going to do that right now. But one bonus I forgot to tell you is the HQ. One of the things it has a command bonus on it. In this case, it's 2 for the Soviets. That's a number of dice that can be added to various values. So one of the values that can be added to is that AP firepower, that upper left group. Instead of 3 dice to make 4, it would have been 5 dice to make 4 for the unit it's specifically stacked with. When you place the HQ, you're going to put it on top of a specific unit. Stacking is 2 units in this game. So if I had these here, and I stack the HQ here, it is specifically stacked with the top unit, and that's the one who can get the bonus. The bottom unit cannot. At least unless it's deployed to him. It's called deploying it when you actually move the HQ marker to a specific unit. So I got a little money there because I went back to combat. But so there's movement, there's direct fire. There are things like onboard indirect fire, which you may have an M106. I forget. Is there? No, you have an M901.
No, he's just got a 113.
He's M901.
Yeah.
Right. So there is onboard indirect fire to go with offboard indirect fire. Onboard being you have an actual unit on the board, and there's rules for that, which we don't have to go into. Then you have move and fire, as I described. As I said, everybody's eligible for move and fire. It's just that it's going to be -2 dice and a maximum of half your movement if you do not have the enhanced move and fire, the orange fire values. For the U.S., it's if you move up to half. Excuse me, for NATO, if you move up to half with the orange numbers, there's no penalty. Moving your full is only -1 die. The Soviets are slightly less. They move up to half with the orange numbers. They lose a die, and if they move full, they lose 2 dice. And then there's assault. Normally, you're not allowed to move into an enemy hex. If you choose an assault action, it has 2 components. One component is the movement action, in other words, moving to the assault. And the other component is the assault itself. So I'm going to be real specific about this. And in the latest PDF version of the rules, I tried to go out of my way to clarify this because there was a lot of confusion. But if you declare an assault, the movement action is everything up to and including the hex adjacent to your target. The assault is when you actually move in. And the distinction is when you're moving, there is opportunity fire. And I'll go into a little more detail on that because it's kind of important especially for the U.S. in this scenario. But the idea is that you're subject to opportunity fire when you moved into a new hex. So if I'm moving to assault that T-80, I'm subject to opportunity fire here and here. But actually moving into the hex, it's too late. The assault has begun, and now the assault procedure takes place, which is comparing basically each side rolls against their assault values. Real quick on assault values, it's the lower right grouping. So both sides shoot. There are no saves. It's deadly. All right. So in this case of the Abrams assaulting the T-80, the Abrams gets 2 dice to make a 4, 5, or 6, and the T-80 gets 2 dice to make a 4, 5, or 6. You roll the number of hits. If the attacker gets more hits than the defender's either dead or must retreat. And again, in the latest PDF edition of the rules, we clarify, where you can retreat, how you can retreat, etc. because again, there was some confusion on that. And of course, apologies for my writing skills. If the attacker is equal to or fewer hits than the defender, you bounce right back out to the hex they came in from, and they're done. Anytime you do any of these actions, when you're done, you will be marked with this bright red Ops Complete marker. That means that that unit has done its one action. So you choose an action. Do you have to declare an action before you start? It's not absolutely necessary. Especially, even with assault, you can probably, because you're starting with movement and you're subject to the same rules as movement. And if you get here and go, I really want to assault him, opportunity fire is sort of too late anyway. But there are people who've told me they house rule it as far as whether you have to declare it or not. Officially, you do not have to declare it. You can do it on the fly. I think I put that in the rules. I hope I did. Otherwise, you have a recording now of me saying that. But that's the basic idea, is that when you're done in action, now your Ops Complete. That marker stays on there until the next time your formation card is pulled, or the end of the turn. So once the cards are pulled, if all the cards are done, the turn's over, or excuse me, the operations phase is over, and you go to the marker removal phase. In the marker removal phase, you're going to take off all the Ops Completes on both sides, all the out of commands on both sides, and both sides will start fresh. Shuffle the deck, go to turn 2. Okay? If if the US is here and he's Ops Complete and the second US card comes up, the first thing that happens is the refresh step. And therefore, in the middle of the turn, these Ops Complete markers go away and the out of command markers go away. So having that second card is a full new activation. Now, you may have combat results, so you're disrupted. That doesn't come off automatically at all. You have to wait for the next activation, not even in the marker removal phase. In the next activation, there is a step along with reload and check for command and offboard artillery. One of those steps is to take off disruptions. So you can think of an activation as all the units of the same color are active, including attachments, which might be white bars. And then you go through a series of steps in a specific order to, judge command, reload any missiles, take off disruptions, fire your offboard artillery, and then you go to actions where you would move a unit or a stack and do its action. Again, the stacking limit is 2, so you kind of have to be careful when you're, let's say, if you're transporting infantry. There's a little bit of transporting of infantry that can happen because the Americans have this M113, which can carry the infantry, and the M113, you'll notice the 6 has a green background. That means that it's a transport. And the way we indicate that the infantry is inside of it is to put the transport on top. When the infantry is not, it's either there or in another hex. The idea here, though, is that when they're inside the transport, that's 1 unit. So this M1 can stack here. That means that the infantry cannot unload into this hex. They can't unload into the next hex, but they can't unload into that hex because then they're over the stacking limit. The stacking limit applies at all times. Things get crowded, especially at the point where you want to assault. That's sort of the point, is that there are people who say that they'll never stack, and that's a good tactic. But for me, the definition of tactics is when you have to stack. When do you take the calculated risk? And that, for me, is what that generates a lot of fun in this game. There you go. That's my commentary on that. I'm going to stop for a second. Again, a lot to absorb. We're going to, it's okay if you make mistakes as we start to play, to be sure. We're going to go over those things. I'm going to make mistakes, I'm sure, even though I try to keep the rules handy. But that's sort of everything that goes on. And if something happens sort of out of the blue, like, you fire a missile and then I say to you, oh, you have to roll to reload, we'll go over that. There'll be a little bit of surprise anytime it's your first game, but I think you'll see how fast it goes once we start playing. Let me go over Opportunity Fire real fast. Opportunity Fire says that basically, if a unit moves, the enemy who is not Ops Complete can shoot at it. 1 unit can shoot at it in each hex it moves. So 1 unit can shoot here, 1 unit can shoot here, and it basically doesn't have to stop moving unless it is disrupted or, of course, eliminated. Once you're disrupted, you stop moving.
Okay.
And then anybody who fires Opportunity Fire is, of course, Ops Complete. So they're not available unless the turn ends or a second formation card is pulled up during the turn. So
if
this
was going to move forward to assault, in theory, all three Russian
yes. Yes, and the HQ bonus would go with one of them, so it get pretty deadly in there. I do want to point something out just as tactically right out of the gate, which is sometimes tactical games end up being, like for me, I call them circles. So the point blank range of the T80 is 6 hexes. The point blank range of the M1, because it's the 105 gun it has on it, is a little bit shorter ranged, is 11. Half of that is 5.5, which rounds down to 5. That little range there is a tactical advantage, but on the other hand, the Soviets tend to need to get to an objective, so it's helpful, but how long do they want to stop before they really need to keep going? The Soviets are sort of all about keep going for me. But that's sort of the way I think tactically, as far as the way the units interact. That may be a bit much for a learner game, but there you go. Shall we throw some units on here and start rolling dice?
Sure.
Okay. All right, Devin, if you wouldn't mind putting the card back in the deck and shuffle that up, I appreciate it.
Yep.
I guess I should probably play the defense to start, just because I'm going to set it up real fast, and I'm not going to worry about where things are too much. I'm going to put one here. This improved positions, by the way, just so you know, they're really effective because they basically negate the first hit, which means that you kind of have to score 2 hits against them just to get one. I should actually explain how you kill units. So if after you do the saves, I'm going to zoom in on this M1 here, then I'm moving around. After you do the saves, 1 hit will disrupt it, and you'll get that disrupted counter. 2 hits will reduce the unit, and it doesn't come back from that. And 3 hits will kill it. And if you kill a vehicle unit, a wreck marker will get placed, and the wreck marker actually does give cover for other units. It has its own defensive bonus of 1 die, so you're sort of making terrain. It's just the hard way. If you're already disrupted, you are then reduced with the first hit and then eliminated with the second hit. So it doesn't behoove you to be disrupted. One thing about being disrupted is you can still move when you're disrupted. You just can't move closer to an enemy unit in your line of sight. You can move away from them. You can stay the same distance, but you basically can't move toward them. If you happen to move out of line of sight and then back into line of sight, as soon as you move back into line of sight with a disrupted unit, you must stop. So there's no cheating and running around the hill and going, I'm getting closer, I'm not getting closer. You have to stop as soon as you're back in line of sight. That's sort of about it. So I'm going to throw down some infantry here. I haven't gone into support weapons, but this tow unit here is a support weapon that enhances the infantry. He can fire it, or he can fire his own inherent firepower. And then I'm going to stick the M113 here. Got my ITO up there. Oh wait, wrong spot. This here. I am setting up as fast as I can. Forget where I put him. Where do I usually put him? I think I'm going to put him over here for now, but I don't remember. Is that everything?
No, you still got Abrams right here.
Oh, I still got an Abrams. That's right. I got the other Abrams, right. Yeah, and then I'm remembering a different version of them here. The M113 there. All right, so I'm going to grab these and let's see. The Soviets enter on turn 1 on the north or east edge of map 1. So map 1 is the right-hand map. And if you can see this, just the way Tabletop Simulator works, there's like a double line down the middle. That's where the 2 maps meet. These are maps 1 and 2 from the game.
Okay.
So the north edge of the map is the north edge of map 1. You see the north marker in the upper right corner? So
Yep.
it's that short edge of map 1 or the long edge on the right of map 1. So once the Soviets have the initiative, which means they're going to get that free activation to move on, and then they have a card in the deck, because once you get your free activation, that's it for the game. But then we start pulling cards. And since I have no idea where you're coming in, this is the moment when I remember when we were playtesting this scenario where I would go, I'm afraid. I'm very afraid because I have no idea where they're coming. I can recommend to you that you may want to come on in stacks of 2 just for convenience, but see how it goes. One thing I will tell you, if you fire at a stack, you have to pick a specific unit to fire at, one or the other. If you get more hits than kill it, you will affect the other unit with those hits. There's been a bit of back and forth about that, but the research I did is, when I talk to tank commanders, I'm like, is it easier or harder to hit a larger group? They're like, easier. So, that's why it is that way.
So in other words, if I successfully got 4 hits, the first unit would become disrupted, half destroyed, and then the other unit
would be disrupted. It would take 1 hit.
Okay.
Without rolling its own armor value. And that's there's a little bit of controversy. I'm like, there's no controversy. It's 1 group and you get 1 armor value, whether that be, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tanks. Because within a 5 to 15 minute turn, the tank commanders I talk to, at least, and I'm sure there's a lot more out there, and I'm sure everybody has different opinions, but when we had to make the design choice, the choice was basically, all right, is it easier they're like, no, they don't have to move the gun as much. It's like, especially if they're walking into the kill zone, it's just easier. If they're 150 yards behind, which is another hex, now you've got to make adjustments that you wouldn't normally make, and now it's a different kind of fight. So but there you go. That's my designer note that I never actually put on the Facebook page because I just didn't have time. I'm sure there'll be comments. So Devin, you got to write those down.
I've got it already in my head memorized.
I'm sure. All right. So I'm set for what it's worth. I actually, between you and me, I feel a little more widely spread than I usually am, but the US is really good at moving, whether they're moving and firing, because they get the 2 activations. I may not get 2. That's the other thing. The second end ops card may come up before my second one. So,
I have one question.
Yes.
All right. So that Abrams is on the hill.
Yes. Line of sight, you're going to ask me about.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yes.
It's on the back half of the hill. Is there provision for blind spots?
There is. Think of the hill as a plateau. The other thing is that the hill, and I apologize, it is important, but it's also a little trickier in terms of time. But think of the hills as plateaus. They are at level 2. The woods in the cities at ground level, where the unit is at ground level 0, the tops of the woods in the cities are level 1. So you've got level 2 hills, level 1 cities and woods, and then level 0 is ground level. So each terrain type has the unit height, in other words, where the unit's sitting, and the obstacle height, which is what affects line of sight. It's triangular line of sight, and the way the hills work is, in order to fire off the hill, you have to be on the edge of the hill. If you fire across the hill, in other words, there's another hill hex between you and the unit in the valley, you can't see him. There's no line of sight. So that M1 that I have there as a point of fact in that improved position in that woods, he's really covering the 2 hilltops. He's not covering the valley, because he can't see into the valley until you get, west of, get to map 2, basically.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you're behind the woods, let's say, I'm going to grab one of your units and show you. So if I were here and you were here, all right, now we've got basically the higher unit counts to the intervening terrain. So 2. So that means you have to be more than 2 away from it as the low unit in order to be in line of sight, which means that right now you're in a blind spot because you're only 2 from the obstacle. If you were here, now I'm 2 from this, you're 3 from that, I can see over it to see you. Is that understandable? And that's as tough as terrain really gets, other than hex sides. If you go down the hex spines, we'll talk about that. There are rules for that, and actually I clarified those in the latest version just to make sure they were written down, even though people had been sort of playing with them already. All right, so I would suggest just sort of lining up on one edge of the map. Half hexes are playable, just so you know. And if you want a suggestion on where to start, I'll leave you to Devin.
Me? No, my tactics are usually a little bit more advanced than, because you know what my tactics are. Get up in your face and assault you as quickly as possible. That's takes a little bit more skill than a novice player would probably have. They will probably get shot up because the understanding how to maneuver the Soviets in this game can sometimes be involved.
Yes. People want to come charging across the valley, and you're going to take your lumps. But on the other hand, if you get close enough, you can move and fire. So if you can keep up some sprinkling of fire and get a critical disruption, you are across that field and in their face.
And you did go over that the Soviets have initiative on turn 1 for this one, correct?
I did, yes.
Okay.
So we're setting up for Art's free activation.
Yep.
It's technically called a formation impulse. For those of you out in virtual land, the reason I say it's technically a formation impulse is because when you pull a formation card, or when you are activated for initiative, you use the formation impulse sequence in the rules, which starts with, of course, placing your HQ or deploying your HQ or moving your HQ.
Do you not see the repack button there, Art?
No, I do not. I have explored.
Yeah. It like I said, for some reason it just is. Sometimes people can do the repack on their own. Sometimes they can't. I have yet to figure out how Tabletop Simulator does that. So if you explode a stack, I'll be ready to collapse.
To jump in there and collapse.
Yep.
I thought he said he was on his phone. I'm like, that'd be amazing playing this on your phone.
So that's 6.
Or technically it could be 2 because you can enter in from any edge.
You can enter from any edge. You don't have to enter from a road.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a road. It's just anywhere along either the east or the north edge of board 1.
Right.
So you could enter right here and then move your next movement to there. So
I am going to move your HQ. You can take your HQ. There's actually a box, a holding box for the HQ that if it's in there, when you would start, you would deploy it to a unit. But any unit coming on the board is automatically in command for that turn. On the other hand, you might want the HQ bonus, so you're allowed to bring it on with other units.
So this would be 5, and that would be 6.
Okay. And then you just grab an ops complete marker and toss it on top since he's done.
Actually, if you bring it on the road, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5, 6. 5, 6.
5.
Oh, 5. Yeah, it's clear.
It's a clear hex.
Yeah. Clear terrain.
Regardless, you got you had the movement points to get there.
Okay, and I've said this before in tournaments, and people who know me know that it's not a requirement to put the ops complete marker on the unit. If you want to see the pretty artwork like I do, I tend to put it adjacent to the unit if it's possible, and on the unit when it gets crowded. But you can do whatever you want. I just like to see the units because that's the way it goes. I was playing in preparation for this while Art's moving. I broke out in Tabletop Simulator a couple hours ago, Arab-Israeli Wars, which is a huge inspiration for this game, by the way. And I was like, and of course I'd just seen Valley of Tears, which I do recommend the combat sequences for you guys because some of them are like, that's what's going on inside the counter. Notably, there was an assault. It's like, what do you mean infantry against tanks? It's like, and they kill a tank. It's like, well, there you go. That's assault. It's two-way street. But I set it up and I was looking for the scenario, which actually wasn't a scenario. It was in the designer notes. They described a battle that the Israelis had that was an influence for the game, if I'm remembering the designer notes correctly, where I think it was 5. I don't know what kind of tanks they were, but there were 5 Israeli tanks and 40 Syrian tanks came in the valley. And 20 minutes later, there were 20 Syrian tanks, and the rest were retreating.
Yes, I remember that
It's
engagement. It was during the 68 Golan Heights. I think those were Super Shermans.
Yeah, it may have been Super Shermans. So that was what was described in the designer notes. And I forgot there's not, because I haven't played it in a long time. I was looking for a scenario like that. And what I found was a scenario that had like 8 platoons of M48 A5s or A1s or something like that against 19 platoons of T-62s plus a full battalion of infantry and BMPs. And they didn't have BMP missiles, so just the 73 millimeter guns. And then there was one Sagger, which I was like, ooh, a Sagger. And I played, and sure enough, Arab Israeli Wars is it's pretty. I've always liked it, but when you're playing the game, you flip the markers, flip the counters down, and that was back in the days when we really didn't have double-sided markers.
Yeah, that was.
So when you're done the turn, when you're done the turn, you have all blank markers. I'm like, oh, you kind of want the turn to end so you can see the pieces again. But and of course it was a typical AIW scenario for me where I'm like, I'm gonna get them with the Syrians. I'm just gonna get them, and I rushed them. I bum rushed them, and I almost had them, and I had half of them dispersed at one point, which kind of I was like, wow, I really got lucky. And then I got unlucky because the ones that were left made me pay. It's like it went from like 0 to 60, or rather 60 to 0 very quickly. So
yeah,
the dead pile was. I killed 2 platoons of Israelis, but everything was gone except platoons.
I'll admit it. I have not had much luck with the Arabs in that game at all.
It's hard. So. It's hard because they did something which we don't really do here, except with the formation cards. They hard coded the tactics, the tactics and equipment into the factors. I mean, we do that to some extent. We do. I'm sorry, I don't mean that, but in that game in particular. But they went into the designer notes exactly what they did, and a lot of it had to do with, the Syrians having T-62s and the autoloader being, the same autoloader they had problems with in the T-72s in this game, even though it's years later. And Soviet tactics of which you see in Valley of Tears, where they're like, what are they doing? Well, they keep their hatches closed. And Israeli tank commanders fought with their hatches open, which actually made it the most dangerous job in the army. They suffered more casualties with tank commanders than you would think. But at the same time, it improved their visibility multiple times. So they were able to maximize their engagement capability. That's my understanding anyway. And if there's any historians out there who have any more to add to that, please do. And I'm always willing to stand corrected. And there's a lot of Soviet tanks coming over this hill. What's going on?
I think Art's got his initiative move done.
Art, are you comfortable with that move?
I am.
Okay. All right. So that's the initiative part of it. And then we go with a card pick. So Devin, if you would oblige us, please. We'll see what the first formation. Thank you for shuffling.
Ooh.
Should have known. Okay, so you're activated for what's called a formation impulse in the rules. First thing you do is you take off all those ops complete markers because you're fresh now. Yeah, I just dropped by the side of the map. You don't have to restack them. We don't have to be neat here. We're gonna need them. And then the next thing you do is you take your HQ, and if you'd like to move it to another unit, deploy to another unit, you can. You don't have to. All right. So there's nobody disrupted. There's nobody who needs to reload. There's no off-board artillery. Probably missing a step, but action step. So now, again, you can choose move, and fire, whatever happens to be. So you're sitting behind the woods, and my M1's going, there's a lot of Soviet tanks that I can hear. This is not making me feel good. And you're using your terrain very well, I must say, because neither of my M1s is really looking forward to you popping out en masse. But next step is for you to choose actions for your guys. Now, since you don't have a line of sight, you can't fire. You can move and fire, and then what you do is you move, and then you move it. The action is literally called move and direct fire. But you move first, and then if you happen to be in line of sight, then you may fire. Now, you'll be subject to opportunity fire should you move in my line of sight. If I have an appropriate weapon, but there you go.
Sure. So he'll move forward.
Okay. I think I am going to take a shot. I'm going to do it from my flanking, what is now my flanking M1 down here. I'm going to move him. This guy here. Because I'm pretty sure I have a line of sight past those woods, but where is that the line thing here? The line tool for basic measuring. Hold the line tool to activate this while in other modes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you see how it does not cross over this woods here? I'm at level 2, you're at level 2, so we're at the same level. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to take a shot. So if I bring up my Abrams here, my range is 11. The range is 2, 4, 6, 8. It is not 5 or less, so it's not point blank range, it's effective range. And I have 4 dice to make 5. I have no modifications other than that. So I'm going to roll 4 dice on the blue. And I get nothing. Welcome to my world.
I'm starting to see a theme with your dice rolling in TTS, Keith.
You know, maybe I'll switch to the Soviet dice. All right. So only one unit can shoot in one hex. So if you do not move any farther, no one else can shoot at you anyway. If you continue to move farther, somebody else can shoot. If someone moves in with you, they are subject to opportunity fire if there's somebody in line of sight, which of course there is.
Okay.
But you do have the option. The option at this point is you can continue moving, or you can stop and do your assault fire or your fire on the move.
Yeah, or you can change this into a fire and move. Now, I can't say they're the best shots in the world, but they are shots. And if you're not moving any farther, it certainly behooves you to take the shot.
In theory, how long would this scenario go?
You mean turns wise?
Yeah.
I think it's 10, right? Hang on.
It is.
Yeah, it's 10.
Yeah, 10 turns.
It's 10 turns. I mean, you need it to get all the way to the river.
Right. Okay, no guts, no glory. 2,
I love it. I love it. This game is perfect for that.
3.
All right, stop there. I think I have a line of sight between the toe with the infantry in the valley. And this will be a great way to show you how this works. No, I do not. So in the middle there's that hill hex. The terrain takes up the entire hex, and I have clipped the corner.
Well,
so
let me check it, because sometimes it clips to the corner, so sometimes you don't get. Let me get okay. That's directly from the center to the center. It still clips it. Yep,
it clips the corner. Okay, and if you ever in Tabletop Simulator, you can always go top down if you really worry about. I don't worry about it too much. I like to play a gentleman's game. Not that gentlemen don't play it. Go back where you were for a second, because I think
that's 3.
I'm going to take the shot with the other M1 though, because he's looking right across the.
Yes, he could indeed do that.
Right. So 2, 4, 6, 7. Again, he's not at point blank range. So again, it's 4 dice to make 5. I'll have confidence.
Was there a question if you thought he could see that, Art?
No, I know
okay,
he.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that Soviet tank commander is like, yes, I've been ordered to go here. 4. Okay, I have 1 potential hit. I rolled a 6. So now you have 4 dice to make 5 in defense. Right. The orange triangle on your unit, by the way, your composite or your reactive armor is for defense against missiles. So they would have helped against that toe should hit the toe have fire.
All right, so I get 4.
Yes, 4. And you need just 1 die with a 5 or 6. Oh my goodness.
2
Okay, 2. So that bounced. So A, I grab an ops complete for me. And B, you may continue moving. And then he's ops complete. Sometimes you can wait till everybody's moved, because at this point, unless somebody moves into the line of sight of that toe or the line of sight of the eye toe on the hill behind that, you're going to be able to move with impunity. So literally, these guys can flood the valley as long as they don't come south of where that current tank is, or where the eye toe has on the hill. In other words, if they don't. I'm explaining too much. Go do your thing.
2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow, things went south really fast. 1, 2, 3. Got one more after that if you want. Now, if he moves there, nobody can see him. Jeepers! I can't believe we have to retreat to the nuclear bunker already. It's like,
Work in one of those.
oh, did you?
Yeah.
I was just joking.
My first job in the military was a ballistic launch officer.
Oh, wow. You have all my respect, and I'm glad you never had to do your job. Are you allowed to talk about if there really were keys and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, there are keys. Friend once asked, I could never do that job. And I'm like, it's real simple. The key. The hard part is knowing when to turn the key.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
One, two, three, 4, 5.
Actually, the road mitigates your hill penalty. That's what roads are for, is basically to make every terrain that they're in one. First time out, he moves the whole battalion, and it's so close that I have to retreat. Oh my god!
You know what? You know what's going to happen now.
I know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen.
2 end up cards.
The question is, yeah, right. Told you exactly right. I'm never going to move, and then it's going to be like, oh, they're in our faces, and we're still here. I don't.
You know,
Devin may know this. Devin may know this or may not, but I don't like giving up improved positions.
Nope.
Perhaps I should tell you that.
all right. We seem to be done. We've made it across the valley. It is not the valley.
I tell you, man, I'm like, it's funny. I play this scenario obviously a lot. I can't remember the last time somebody came in from the east. Most people come in from the northeast or the north, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, oh man, how do I flex here? All right, so you're done. That's your, and you can see how quickly it goes. That's your formation activation. We go to the next card, and obviously it'll get faster as we go. We've been explaining the whole way, so we're going to accelerate here. All right, so Charlie Company's like, all right, let's get the heck out of here. So the first thing happens is I'm going to take off these ops completes. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my HQ, which is still over here, which is as if normally HQs and support weapons start in this deployment box. Support weapons like this tow, I mean, there's only one place it can go is on that infantry, but they would be in that box too, so that you don't know exactly where they are until the other guy deploys them. But once they're deployed, they stay put. HQs you deploy, you can move them to another unit. By the way, you always have to use move an HQ to a unit in the formation. It can be an attachment. Attachments are part of the formation. So in this case, I'm going to, where am I going to drop him? I think I'm going to put him in the middle and let the Jeep tow kind of be the issue. Because I really want everybody to be in command. Now notice my command range, I'm going to pull this card out. My command range is 5, and my morale training is 7. That's that advantage that NATO has in a lot of cases. All right, so when I check command, I put my HQ here, and then I say everybody's within 5 except this Jeep tow. So I'm going to roll 2 die 6, and I need to roll a 7 or less for him to be in command, which he is. So I don't have to worry about anything with him. I just got to get him moved. My God, what am I going to do? Because if I rush him, he will kill me. It's only turn 1. Help me.
Don't the ops complete need to be taken off the Soviets?
No. What happened was that your formation impulse ended. Your ops completes are on. Yours don't come off again until either the marker removal phase at the end of the turn, which is after the operations phase is complete, or if your card came up again, which it won't. So you notice when you did the initiative move, you had your ops complete markers. When you picked your card, that's when they came off.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So so I don't have any risk of opportunity fire, but that would just basically have me sitting there, when your ops complete came off, and I'd be, you'd just make me dead.
Yeah, that entire battalion would probably light up
Yeah,
a
that would
platoon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think I'm going to leave him there covering the hill. I'm going to bring the Jeep up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to cover that hill. I can't stay here. I can't do that.
You don't want to give up the IP though.
Don't want to give up the IP, but on the other hand, the IP is going to give me up. Well, no, we're going to go for the sake of argument. I'm going to stay. I'm calculated risk. I'm going to stay put there. But these guys, now, loading carriers, there's different variations. But one of the way you can load is either the carrier can move to the infantry unit, or the infantry can move up to 1 to the carrier to load. In this case, though, I don't have time, so I'm just going to move. I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3.
Don't take the victory marker with you.
Oh, sorry. Let me explode this stack here and move that back over here and repack it, which is why I love this thing. And then I'm just going to move the M13 is just going to stay put because no, it's no reason. No, I got no reason. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. All right. I'm not. This is like bad timing. It's like, he's too close and I'm in the open and this is just not fun. Not fun. I can shoot at him. I think I'm going to do that. So the M1 here, how do we do? So it was a tab key. How do we do the arrow?
Oh, press and hold the tab key. But if you'll notice with the counter in it, it automatically snapped to one of the corners. So you kind of got to move the counter.
Right.
Who are you going after?
Actually, the guy over here. And I mean, I know I have a lot of sight. So the idea here is I'm at level 2. Woods is at level. The higher unit counts to the ops.
Right. So you could see 3 hexes past the...
Right. I can't see the guy in front of him because he's 2 hexes from the obstacle, but I can see the guy behind him. And then this is a learning game. I have no problem about losing this other than my compulsion to keep IPs. So I'm going to take a shot. It is 6 hexes, so it's effective range, and the usual 4 dice to make 5. And I'm going to use the same roll-o-matic. Devin, stop me.
Hey, there.
3 hits. All right, now we're cooking with game. All right, so 3 potential hits. You're in the open, but you have 4 dice to make 5 for your armor. You need 5s or 6s to mitigate 1 or more of these 3 hits. You got 1. So that's 2 hits. So he is disrupted and reduced. And I'm ups complete. And we'll see whether that was worth it or not. Generally it is, but there's 8 more where he came from. Let me see if I can clip him off. All right. I really shouldn't do this, but I will. All right, just to show you how move and fire works, I'm going to sacrifice an M1 to do this. I'm going to go here and abandon my position. And I can, the hex spine, we're 2 different levels. This one hex spine, if you're at the same level, 1 hex spine of a blocking hex doesn't block. 2 would. But in this case, there's only 1. I'm not going to go to the details of if you're at different levels. I put that into the new version of the new PDF version of the rules. But I'm just going to shoot at. Can you get rid of that so I can see it target? I'm going to hit this stack here. Actually, I'm going to hit 1 unit in it because I can. And if I get lucky, I'll get a disruption against the second guy. So I've got 4 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's point blank range. So I've got 4 dice to make 4s. Instead of 5s, because now this 105 comes into its own. So 4 dice to make 4s, and I score 3 hits with authority on this stack here.
All right, so I
that's
get
the arrow.
dice at 5.
Yeah, you
right?
get 4 dice to make 5. Yeah, thank you, Devin. I can't seem to
Yeah,
get
just
that pointy arrow thing going.
tapping the tab button will bring up the arrow. Holding the
tapping.
tab key will bring up the ruler.
Right. So what I see there is no saves. All right. So 3 is left. That means I got a kill against the top platoon. So a wreck marker is substituted for him, and he goes into the casualties box. First blood. Sounds like it's worth it until the rest of the Soviet.
You're shooting here or the one behind?
Yeah, the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. So you take him, drop him in the casualties box, and then grab a wreck marker from the upper right there. Rex marker, excuse me. The reason I called it Rex is
there's multiple wrecks in.
There's multiple wrecks. It's on the counter and everything, and it really is a platoon game. It's not an individual tank game, and there's a lot of back and forth about that. But it's like that's the design, the design concept. So we made them Rex markers.
Hits, right?
What was that?
You got 3 hits.
I got 3 hits, right? So the first disrupted, the second reduced, the third killed. Now the second guy, he's fine.
Right.
Okay. I am ops complete there. And I forgot to put an ops complete here. And I'm leaving the M901 where he is. So he's not ops complete. And I'm done. So that's the end of my formation impulse. We go to the next card. Oh, all right. Maybe I will get out of this alive. Okay, so I take these off. That was one of those NATO advantages. All right, so we picked at you, and now we're gonna come back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He makes it to the town. I want him to be here, and I want him to be in the improved position just so there's somebody there. The M901 stays put. This M1 is going to continue to fire at the disrupted unit. So let me see if I can get this right. Arrow, yay! This M1 is going to fire at...
You still have your command check.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, your headquarters is...
Okay, so these guys were here. So everybody was out of command except the M113 and the near M1. So I have to roll for him. I roll 2 die 6. I cheat at my own game. I need a 7 or less. He makes it. I got to roll for...
No, that's a... Oh, yeah, 7 or less, yep.
Yeah, 7 or less. And he's good, barely. I got to roll for the Jeep tow. 7. Okay, I made it. Everybody who was out of command made it. So I apologize for missing that. I played the game fast. So, so let me take this shot. It's the same thing. It's 4 to make 5 with no modification. Only this time I get nothing. Devin will testify that happens a lot.
Tabletop Simulator dice does not like Keith.
It is. All right. I'm going to go back into the improved position with him. I'm not going to take a shot. And I think I'm just going to see if I can tie you up from there. I moved him, right? I moved everybody.
Yep, and the Jeep and the... you didn't move the ITV, yeah.
Right, I didn't move the ITV. So I'll pull this off for the sake of prettiness, and I'm done. So now we pull the next card.
Well, I can already tell you what the next card is going to be.
Wait,
is it going to be
did you
right?
make a command roll for that northernmost M1?
I did. I
you
did.
did?
I had 3 command rolls, and I rolled 3 7s.
Okay, I missed it. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
And ops.
I'm glad you asked.
Right.
So
and ops.
we actually did. Everybody got their maximum moves, and then we had a maximum turn. So it was interesting. All right. So now we finished the operations phase. We're into the marker removal phase, which is a single logistics phase, and then we're going to go to the next turn. So, and you finished your first turn of World War 85. So, but you can see as you get more practiced, it's going to go really fast. Here, I'll help you with these. Okay. Now your disruption stays, but any out of command markers that you might have had, or I might have had, would go away at this point. So here we are on turn 2. So Devin's already moved that. Shuffle the deck, please. And pull a card. Now, there's no more initiative because you used it already. Ooh, and you're first.
Nice.
Oh, boy. So, people who played the game, and you guys out there can, hopefully testify to this, where it's like, yes, we're really close, and we got the first activation, and oh my God, is that good or bad? Yeah, that's going to be quite the fight.
All right. So the first thing I do is
First thing you're going to do is check for command, which you're good. First thing you're going to do is if you want to move your HQ, you can. Now, your HQ bonus can help that guy undisrupt. So some people will move the HQ to the disrupted unit, and therefore that HQ bonus will apply, where it's basically, rather than give you extra dice because it's a morale training roll to remove the disruption, it'll basically give you 2 more on the morale training. So your morale training will be 8 instead of 6 when you're trying to recover from it. But you have to be assigned to that unit. You have to be deployed to that unit. So if you want to move your HQ, now would be the time to move it. If you don't, he can just take his chances and try and roll a 6 or less.
going to take his chances.
Okay. So your HQ's there. Everybody's in command because everybody's within 4 hexes. If you look on the card, you see the green 4. Right. The next thing you do is actually reload, because being disrupted affects that, which there's no reloads. So now we go to removal disruption. So roll 2 die 6 and for the unit the reduced unit that is disrupted, and we'll see if he removes his disruption. And he does. Dagnabbit. In Arabs Early Wars, you disperse the Arabs to shut them down because they never recover from dispersion. In this game, if the Soviets come back from disruption, you're in trouble. All right. So you are ready to go, and there's no artillery, which would be the next step. So we're right into the action step. So this is move and fire and possibly assault. Now, just so you know, if you do happen to assault the M1 in the improved position, that improved position will basically mitigate the first hit you get against me, just like any other thing that shoots at something. On the other hand, sometimes it's the only way to do it. And I haven't told you about volley fire, and I'm cheating by not doing that, but we're not going to do that right now. If you decide you want to shoot at the improved position, we'll talk about volley.
Oh, I got to get in line of sight first.
Right, exactly.
See, this would be a bad situation for Keith if I was running the Soviets. Because Keith knows exactly what I would do.
Oh, I do. However, just because you think you would make it a bad situation doesn't mean that all the guys out there wouldn't make it a bad situation for me.
That's why I'm just commenting on myself. Basically, Art, I am a real fan of using the Soviets and getting into assault with the NATO forces as quickly as possible. It is the only time that NATO and Warsaw Pact forces are at parity, because when you're in melee, it's 2 dice at 4. 2 dice at 4, 2 dice, it doesn't matter. You don't have extra armor saves, you got nothing. It's the only time when an M1 is equal to a T80. So I like getting up and assaulting really quick. Sometimes you've got to sacrifice some units, and as it stands now, and Keith, if you don't mind me giving some advice.
Not at all.
Basically, this unit right here is in perfect position to be assaulted. It's kind of rough because he's in improved positions, which will negate 1 hit. Right. This unit has got a little bit more cover, so you're probably going to take a little bit more opportunity fire getting to him. But with this guy right here, I would probably take this stack and come around this way. So you're kind of avoiding the ITV.
Avoiding the ITO, yeah.
Until you and even right there, because the ITO can't fire through the woods. Now you are going to get sniped at by the Abrams as soon as you pop up right there. But
at point blank range. So the first guy might die.
Right, exactly, and that is the problem with my tactics, is that it's a gamble. You're going to take bad risks, but 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 5, 6 to move right in there. You'll take a brutal op fire right there, but hopefully one of the vehicles will get in anyways.
Right, and the thing here is, this is where numbers come into play. Just if you don't mind us doing little tactics, this is where I would, if I were the Soviets, I would not move in stacks. I would move in one guy to take that shot. and the M1 doesn't really have any choice but to take it.
Now,
And then start assaulting, and then I might stack to go into the assault once there was no more fire. But that improved position is seriously going to help. So then I would assault with stacks. But
that is the one wrench in my plan, because the IP does automatically remove one hit. So you're going to have to get both of your hits from one vehicle. So maybe not assaulting, that's the best thing to do. I would do it anyways, just because
right.
I do.
And let me offer for the more advanced players out there, what do you do if you can't burn a position? Is you force him out of it. So for me, and Art, don't let this influence you, but it's just sort of experience talking. If that M1's a real problem, he's not at the objective. He may come back to the objective, but he's not. And I like to fight from the objective. Devin knows that too.
Yes.
So I would probably swing south between those two hills, because as soon as I do that, A, the M1 can't shoot at it. B, the other M1 has tough time doing it. The ITO can't shoot at it. It's an open area. The TOW is going to take a pot shot at me once I get past the town, but I can get to that town, and I can get objective B, and that M1's been neutralized unless it moves, because now I'm in the valley. So I didn't have to shoot at it, didn't have to lose anything. You're going to have to lose stuff taking, the second objective. And if you have to, keep the first objective, that's, takes more troops. But the idea is it's not all about killing units for me. But that's an advanced thing. To start with, just shoot at stuff.
Although with what I have said, I would not, thinking on it more, I would not recommend you assaulting that position. Like I said, just because of the improved position, unless you really intend to swarm him with lots and lots of units. But again, with that improved position, the 2 dice that you have, both of them have to be successful to just get one hit on it. So in this situation, like I would probably do that. But Keith's advice of swinging down through and going for the objectives, probably the more sound decision. You're going to catch fire from this M1 Abrams here, and you're going to catch fire from that one ITV. But if you can get a foothold in that city, that gives you extra defensive dice, and then that forces his M1 to move. He's probably going to want to pull that ITV back, and he's probably going to want to get that Abrams out of there as well. So it's on your footing. You're forcing him back by moving up into there.
And actually, that M901 can't see into the valley because I'm 1 hex back.
Oh, you are 1 hex back.
I put him up there to cover the hilltops. Yeah, so
really,
there's a gap there.
Approaching.
That's why I put the.
Yeah.
There's basically a slight blind spot behind the town that the only thing covering that is the infantry TOW, which is nothing to shake a stick at.
No.
That's where you bank. That's where you bank on your reactive armor to help.
All right.
You got all that? There'll be a quiz.
We'll activate this guy.
All right.
1, 2.
Yeah.
That's all right. Oh, shoot.
Very well played, Art.
Crap.
Yep. Keith saw
all right.
exactly.
I'm going to let you move if you want to continue to move. Otherwise, I'm going to let you shoot if you decide to move and fire. And I'll tell you the reasons why. But so I'm not shooting in that hex is basically what I'm saying. If you decide to convert this to a move and fire, you could stop there and then fire and only lose 1 die because you've only moved half of your movement.
Sure, we'll fire from that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I gave him the first shot. What am I thinking? All right. So your 3 dice to make 4 becomes 2 dice to make 4, but you're at point blank range. So it becomes 2 dice to make 3. And I'll tell you the reason I let you shoot is if you got in the open, then I would have killed you. I really didn't want to deal with your defense, but my defense is 4 dice to make 5, plus 1 for the hill is 5 dice to make 5, plus 1 for the woods is 6 dice to make 5, versus your 2 to make 3. So the odds are, even if you make both hits, which is high, I'm hoping to be able to mitigate that because of my position. So
I'm hoping you.
Yeah. And you're opening, I don't. But until you haven't lived in this game until and Kev Sharp, if you're out there, you can testify that when we were playing at BGG Con a couple years ago, that we had 5 dice, 5 hits and 5 saves. I don't remember that one, but I do.
All right, I got 2 hits.
He did.
All right. Nice grouping, as they say. So as I said, I have 6 to make.
1.
No, I got 1.
Oh.
Oh, crap! All right, so you just opened up that whole flank because, other than the infantry toe, because now there's nobody there to move you.
Okay, we should probably also mention what happens to a disrupted unit in the assault.
Yes, disrupted units, instead of having their regular assault 2 hit, their 2 hit becomes 6. So when people say you need to soften up your target. In this game, softening up your target means reducing them and putting disruptions on them before you assault. And it really does translate almost literally to the real world in that respect. People are like, well, what if I go in there, and he's full strength? It's like, he's going to kill me. I'm like, yeah, well, what do you do? It's like, you soften him up. It's like,
So 1 hold on. Or I will forget.
Yep, ops complete.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Great.
1, 2, 3, 4. I can't get into the hill, can I?
No, because the woods, the hill gives you +1, and the woods is 2 to go into, so you need 3 movement points. So that hill just saved my butt.
Yeah, given that, I don't think I'd 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 2 to move into the city, right?
Unless you're following a road.
Unless you're on the road, you can move into this. You can move into objective B. All right, so I'll let Devin swap
I'll
the
take care of
objective
the
markers.
Yep.
He's going to give you a shiny red B marker instead of the blue circle. You get a red circle. There it is. So you have taken your first objective.
Woo!
Well, actually, you've taken the first objective, hex. You need to take both hexes to control the objective. For everybody, the experienced players out there know that in order to to control a hex, you have to be the last to move into it, to occupy it or move through. To control an objective, depending on the scenario, you need to be the last to occupy and move through all the hexes of the objective.
I should count that out. 1, 2, 3.
Oh man!
Can you see?
Yeah, I can see you with the infantry toe. The question is whether I want to shoot at a reduced unit. Yeah, I think I'm going to shoot at the reduced unit. I don't know what my shot at very well. Okay, so the way this works is, that's one reason I put the HQ down there, is to make this as effective as possible because of your reactive armor. Shift my view here so I can actually see what's going on. So, the toe here has 4 dice to make 4, plus 2 dice for the HQ. So that's 6 dice to make 4. His range is 13, which means 6 or less is point blank, and that's 6, so you're at point blank. So this is 6 dice to make 3s. However, your defense is not 4 to make 5. Because of the orange triangle, the reactive armor on your counter, you have 4 dice to make 4. So it's not as lopsided as it sounds. It's still pretty lopsided, but not as bad as it was. So I got 6 to make 3s, which I thought I hit the automatic. Here it is. And it looks like I got 1, 2, 3. Oh, I did get 4 hits. All right. But you've got 4 dice to make 4s, which is pretty decent usually for defense.
Save 2 of them.
2. Save 2. All right. However, that's 2 and you're reduced. So the first disrupts and the second kills you. So you get replaced with a wreck. However, I have to make an ammo reload check, which is a morale training value, which is 7 for my guys. So I have 2 dice. If I make it, I'm good to go. That's a cracked die, isn't it?
No, it was a 6. Whenever you use the dice-o-matic, if you look in the center of the screen, it also shows you what the roll is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it may look like a cocked dice up there, but it actually registers it as a 2.
So for the sake of argument and to show you this, Art, let's say I failed, and I'm going to do that because I have no fear. I'm already going to die. What would happen is I get this ammo reloading mark. All right. And that means I can't fire again until I reload. Now, reloading, it's that step we keep talking about that we never have before actions. And that would be, again, a morale training check. So it is affected by HQ, a command bonus. If I make it, it comes off. If I don't make it, it stays on. Certain unit types, if I don't make it, it'll give me low ammo, which means one more shot, like the ITV. And other things, if I don't make it, I'm out of ammo, like things that just carry less, like BMPs and Bradleys just carry fewer rounds than your dedicated ATGM vehicles or your infantry, which, as everyone has heard from me a million times when I was doing research, yes, they carry around a truckload of missiles. The reloading is, the guy's pinned down trying to get stuff back from the truck. All right, so that was a good move, though, because that cleared your lane. Now you can move anywhere you want up there. And they get cover from the Rex. They get an extra defensive die, so you'll have 5 to defend against whatever might or might not come at you.
Do Rex count for stacking purposes?
They do not. They do not. Yeah, that's the thing. You get cover, but no stacking. No stacking. People aren't used to that from some games. It's like Rex. There's enough space here. It's like, no, you're going to move around those Rex, but you can use them for cover. We don't ever put more than one Rex marker in the hex either. So,
Keith, we did have a question from the people watching on Twitch. Biff Gimbal was asked, what is the turn length? So how many minutes is each turn, roughly?
It's 5 to 15 minutes. It's flexible. So sometimes a lot happens, sometimes a little happens, sometimes there are, periods of boredom, punctuated by moments of terror.
So I will shoot the unit that just moved with the headquarters at the infantry.
Okay. Now, since you're firing at a soft target, you aren't allowed to use your armor piercing grouping, the upper left grouping, but you use the upper right grouping. So the range is usually different for that. So why don't you take a look at, why don't you expand the stack so we can look at the, all right. So you've got these guys, the HQs with the top unit. Their range on that is 6. That's their effective range, and they have 3 dice to make 5. You notice it's not quite as effective as the AP, but you're within range. You have moved your full movement more than half, so you would lose 2 dice. So it's 1 die to make 5, but the HQ for the top unit makes it 3 dice to make 5. The bottom unit would still be 1 die to make 5, but you can make both of those. I mean, you make them separately, but you make both of those shots because both can do move and fire.
Now, the advantage is that you are firing at soft targets.
Right. So the only defensive dice I get are the 1 for the woods. If I were in city, I would get 2, but woods give me 1. So I get 1 die, and whenever it's excuse me, I didn't explain this, but for soft targets and for light armor, actually, the save number is always 5. Always 5. So it's 1 die to make a 5 or 6. Actually, light armor, it depends on the armor value itself, but for soft targets, I would have 1 die to make 5 or 6. So you taking a shot with a low number of dice still has a strong possibility of scoring.
All right, so 3 dice.
With the first unit, yes.
With the first unit, yes. Oh, man. Son of a Lupin. All right, I get 1 to make 5. And of course I miss. Sorry.
2 hits.
All right, so here's the deal. 2 hits. And I'm going to explode this stack because you just exploded me. He is reduced. And let me grab a disruption marker. Disrupted. Go on top. There you go. Right. Now, the HQ, you can't directly target HQs. But if something in the hex is reduced or eliminated, you do make a check to see if they are reduced. If they are reduced twice, they are what's called suppressed, and they are taken off the map and put in the suppressed box, which is right next to the holding box. When they're suppressed, they're not on the map, which means if your card comes up and you don't have an HQ, everybody has to roll for command. Doesn't mean you won't be in command, but it means everybody has to roll. And it's not allowed to come back on until the next turn, but it will come on the next turn. It's just once it's reduced for the rest of the scenario. So in this case, I'm going to roll, and it's a morale training check, which my morale training is 7. And
For casualty reduction?
yes.
Isn't it a straight D6?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It's see, I don't remember my own game. It's a D6, and since nothing was eliminated, I believe it's still.
Yeah, there's no modifier. There's no plus 2 to it. So
I got a 5, which is close. So I'm gonna go. Do we have the every die roll in the game? That's modifiers. I don't know if we have the every die roll in the game.
On a one result of 1 through 3, the HQ or leader is not affected. On a 4 through 6, the HQ is reduced and or leader is wounded.
There you go.
There
okay,
you go.
So if he's reduced again.
Page 60.
HQ is now.
Oh, sorry, page 63 for those playing with the home edition.
Oh, there you go. The home edition sounds like Jeopardy.
Exactly.
Well, this is Jeopardy. So the HQ is reduced there. So now my command bonus is only 1. And again, if he's reduced again, and if you reduce the infantry again, the infantry is dead. The HQ immediately goes to the suppressed box and would be flipped. If it's already flipped, it doesn't get any worse. So HQs are very flexible because they're not just the HQs themselves; they're also the resources that a formation uses to organize its emphasis, to make its emphasis of where it could be ammo, it could be the adjutant or something like that. It could be other resources. So it always comes back. There's always somebody who will take command. It's just it may take a little bit of time. So good shot.
Yeah, and Art, you had a couple people on Twitch congratulating you on that good shot as well. Now that was just the first unit. You've still got another unit in there.
Yeah, you still have the other unit. He can roll a 1 die to make 5 for the second unit, and there's no reason not to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll follow up with the other unit.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. He's not so hot on his 12 points on his 14.5. All right. So they're done. They get an ops complete.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just 3. You're following the road.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Then I will take a shot at the guy on the hill.
Okay. And since you only moved 3, you're only going to lose 1 die. So you're going to have 2 dice to make 4, point blank range, 2 dice to make 3. 3 or higher. You only rolled 1? Rolled 2.
2
Oh
more
my God.
hits. Oh.
All right. Again, I have 6 dice to make 5. What happens here?
You can blow this. It's so high.
It's okay to beat up on the designer.
What better
If I
way?
can- Exactly. If I can hit the button.
Yeah, somehow you're I'll roll the dice for you. Your
Thank you.
finger wasn't right on it. I'm sorry.
You saved me.
I'm sorry.
3 saves.
I'm sorry, Art.
That's okay.
You got 3 saves. All right. Nice grouping though.
Yes, again, nice grouping.
Yes, like think about that. You had both those units. You were like, the Soviets can't shoot. I'm like, yeah, you've been on the business end. That's 4 shots and 4 hits
On a moving fire.
on a moving fire, and like the guys in those M1s are like, they are not supposed to be blowing away trees like this. All right, next.
One, 2, 3, 4.
No
Actually,
more
it's
hiding in those woods.
That's 3 to get to P8. You can't move into 08 because that will overstack
right,
it.
because it's overstacked. Yeah.
So, but you can move into P8, but you won't be able to fire on the tank unit because you're in the blind hex behind the
Right.
woods right there.
You can leave, and this is a little subtlety that even people out there may not have run into because it doesn't happen often. But you can leave a unit behind from a stack, but you can't split off and go in 2 different directions and keep moving with the other one, because otherwise, why would you move it as a stack?
Now, if you wanted to move and fire those guys without the biggest penalty, you started off in M9.
Just move up the hill.
Well, I would. Well, yeah, you could go
Oh,
up
so
and
yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot.
no,
Forgot
but
about
what
my
he
own
could
M1.
do is 1, 2, 3, and fire from P7.
Yeah.
Can you continue to move?
Yeah. If he has a clear line of sight, if it clips the woods, he can't do that
Well,
because he's only 2 from the woods and I'm 2 from the woods.
Seems
So
how we
let's
can
check.
line of sight at any time we want.
That clips the corner.
It clips the corner. All right.
Yeah. I've lost so many shots to clip corners. I have the sixth sense for it. This is one time it worked in my favor though.
Once you fire, do you cease movement?
Yes.
For move and fire, yes. Yeah, fire is at the end of your move.
Okay.
And no, there is no fire and then move. You kind of sort of have to split it amongst multiple activations to do that.
We'll sit behind the woods.
All right.
I can say you can move up one more hex on the road to the west, and unless I recover from disruption, you can take it. You can take your shot because you do have a line of sight there.
That's true, but then again, you in theory will get another activation.
Unless you kill me.
There is always that. Yes.
I mean, you're at point blank range, with both of them.
All right, you convinced me.
People will always do things against their self-interest. I'm always telling people, shoot me. I just think it's more fun if you let people shoot at you.
Yep.
All right, same thing. 2 to make 3 for the top guy, and we'll get to the bottom guy. Oh, only 1. All right.
Wait, I'm still
Being good.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, that's a kill. Congratulations.
No, he only had 1 hit on you.
He only needed. Oh wait, I thought
You're not reduced yet. No.
Oh, well, I am now.
You are now. Yes. And that was
Second shot.
That was just the first vehicle. Yep.
Jesus. These guys in the M1s are not having a happy day.
All right, the second
Started off bad when 30 T80s came down the road. One
Well-
hit. All right. That was your roll, right? You did roll, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I get-
All right.
Well,
I'm good.
there's all the saves you needed for the last
Yes.
several shots at you.
Right. All on one. All right, Art. I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. He's winged my right flank. He's bypassed my left flank. We are attacking.
So that's everything for Art. So let's go ahead and flip the next card. I'm praying it's an end ops card. No, there it is.
There we go. Okay. All right. Well, this comes off, but where am I going to put my HQ? See, if I don't put it with an M1, what?
Now I'll pay for my.
I don't know, because I'm so spread. If I lose one guy to out of command, I got a problem. So I'm actually going to put the HQ. I'm going to let the M1 be on its own, and I'm going to put the HQ here so I can have the core of my stuff in command, which means I sacrifice the bonus to reload too. So it's a double gamble here. So as far as command goes, both M1s have to roll. So let me roll for the disrupted one first. I need a 7 or less to be in command. He is not in command. Frack. Yes, I did like Battlestar Galactica. All right. And then the other M1. So I thought soft 4 coming out like, All right. So the guy is disrupted. They're in trouble because their radios aren't working anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll to reload this infantry here. And again, that's the same morale training roll. So I need a 7 or less. Aha.
Oof.
Okay. The toe's back in action. Oof. All right. I'm going to fire the toe to lead this off with. I'm going to hit the guy. I think I have to hit the guy in P10 line of sight, I think.
So what's your? You're reduced now, aren't you?
The infantry's reduced, but the support weapon is not affected by that because it's a separate team. But the support weapon stays with the infantry and suffers the fate of the infantry. So if the infantry dies, the support weapon dies.
But what's your command rating?
I'm sorry.
The
What's
headquarters.
command? Oh, the headquarters is 1. Here's my headquarters over here. So my command rating is 1, and it will stay 1 for the rest of the scenario.
Yeah, he pulled the headquarters back, so that tow unit will not get the command.
Right, the tow.
bonus from
Yeah, the tow
headquarters.
won't get the command bonus. Yeah, I'm not doing the 6 to make 4 because I'm like, all right, the commander, they have to command now. You're gonna have to fight on your own. All right, so I've got 4 dice to make 4, and you've got reactive armor. So. Oh, 2 hits. Okay. So that's 2 hits. You've got 4 dice to make 4s instead of 4 dice to make 5s because of your reactive armor. And if there's 2 units in there, I was just firing at the top unit.
Yeah, I just like checking for.
Oh, he's got.
Oh,
the
you
Rex
have
there as
5
well.
dice.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have
about
5
the
dice to
Rex.
make.
Forgot about
Yeah, I
the
don't think-
Rex.
Yeah, but I don't think I had a line of sight to P9. That's why I went with P10. Oh my god. Okay, there you go. I'm going to make my ammo check roll and kind of meekly crawl away. I made the ammo check roll, but I am ops complete. Oh no, I should have still rolled to undisrupt
Real quick, Keith. Rich Kerr pointed this out. Reduced headquarters. The tow team was also out of command because the command range is now 4.
Oh, you're right. Let me roll command for them because if they were out of command, then there was no shot. Thank you very much for picking that up. They are in command.
Yep.
But I also should have rolled to undisrupt the
Even though they're out of
the
command.
M1. Right, but the out of command, if I'm remembering my own rules correctly, their morale training is 1 less because they're out of command when
Right.
they're trying to roll for disruption. So I need a 6 or less for them to undisrupt. And they did not.
And they
So
did
everything's status quo. But thank you for letting me do that, Art. I appreciate it.
Good call, Rich.
Yeah, good call, Rich. Thank you very much. So that's done. Now I'm out of command. He can't move. And since he's disrupted, he cannot fire. So he's basically hiding. The other Abrams is help me, Obi-Wan. You're our only hope. I can't stay in the improved position. There's 8 turns left, and I can't let you molest everybody in there. The question is, what do I do? Crap. This is the part I hate. Yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3. No guts, no glory. And we'll fire. Going to fire on that same stack that the toe just missed. 4 dice, point blank range makes, instead of 4 to 5, makes 4 to make 4. And I found the roll-o-matic. I just have to get closer to the map. So 1. Let me say that again. 1.
1.
Hit. You have 1 for the wreck plus your 4 to 5, so you have 5 to make 5 per shot. That was point blank too.
Yeah, it was.
And 1 save.
1 save.
See, there's a reason that there's actually the real reason that NATO, has a second activation. They need it. I am not going to move and fire with that ITO. I don't know what I'm going to do with him, but I'm not going to move and fire. There's the Jeep tow. All right, I am going to take this shot because it's a great example of one of the modifiers that we haven't gone over yet. And again, it's demo, so there we go. I'm going to fire the Jeep tow here at the T-80 that's sitting on the objective. Okay, pack that. And the modifier that's involved here is this is a tank guided missile firing into heavy terrain that provides a defensive bonus, notably woods and cities, because the wires on the anti-tank guided missiles really don't like going around corners in cities or wrapping around branches in woods. So the way it works out is you get an extra die when an anti-tank guided missile is firing into that kind of terrain. And anti-tank guided missiles only permitted to fire at vehicles, not helicopters, just vehicles, other vehicles, I should say. Heavy armor is what it's called. So in this case, but I do have the HQ for the HQ bonus. So I've got 4 dice to make 4. I've got 5 dice to make 4. 2, 4, 6, 7. I'm at effective range, and that's it. 5 dice to make 4. Rollomatic says 3 hits. Now, again, you've got 4 to make 5, but you've got reactive armor, so it's 4 to make 4, and you've got 1 for the city. That's 5 to make 4, and you've got 1 because I fired a missile into the city, so you've got 6 to make 4. On the other hand, I did score 3 hits, which is good. So if you want to make your roll.
Did we lose you, Art?
No, he's moving.
Oh, okay.
I see the finger moving.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Now, you can only get, armor can only get a 2 die advantage. But
In defense.
Hidden units, right?
Concealed units, yeah. Concealed unit, to go into some detail, would be if you didn't have an ops complete marker. But you do, so you're not concealed.
Okay.
Yeah, it basically an ops complete marker indicates you have moved or fired, thus breaking any concealment you would have had.
Okay. So 6 dice.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Jeepers creepers.
Art, you got some beautiful dice rolls, my friend.
Congratulations, man. That was brilliant. Wow. I'm like, no, not anymore. All right. The Jeep Tow has to make an ammo check. Real quick die roll. And he misses.
Of course.
All right. So I'm going to drop it on there, explode the stack, move this on top of the tow, and repack it. That's one of the reasons I love this exploder. I do want to.
It is a nice feature.
It is a very nice feature.
It is a very nice feature. Oh, crap. I even had the HQ. The M901 is not going to fire, so I'm done. So next card, please.
Let's hope it's end ops. Nope.
Ah! All right. I have lots to do because stuffing kicked out of me. All right. The out of command marker comes off. So let's do this step by step. First thing is I can move my HQ, which is kind of critical here. I need to get those M1s out of there. And at the same time, I need to maintain some kind of control over the bottom of the pocket, if you will. I think I'm going to go with the M1s and let the pocket take care of itself. So I'm going to put him here. The only one who's in command range is the other M1. So I'm going to roll command for everybody else. I'm going to start from the ITO or the M901 up here and work my way down. So 2 die. And again, this is it's still against a 7. It's just the range is reduced on the HQ because it's reduced, but not the training value. All right. The first guy makes it. The next is the reloading Jeep Tow. He makes it. Then is the M113. He makes it. And then there's the infantry with the tow team. They make it. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Hey, I got some decent rolls there. All right. So the next thing I do is I'm going to roll to reload the Jeep Tow. And then I'm going to come back to the disruption. And he makes it. So the reloading marker comes off. And then I'm going to roll to undisrupt the M1, the reduced M1. I get a bonus of 1, so I get to, instead of having a 7, I'm rolling against 8.
Oh, that's not good.
You're killing me, Smalls. Okay. So this is my second activation, and you haven't activated. You did activate. You had to activate to get up there.
All
right. So this is my chance to get the heck out of Dodge. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is get these M1s out of here because there's just no reason they should be there. There's no real good reason to be there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to stop there. This guy is going to go. Well, he can go anywhere he wants. So I think he's going to take point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Ito is going to move into the improved position with the M113. The Jeep Tow does not have a shot except the same one he just took. I'm thinking about that. The Infantry Tow is going to fire. So again, we're going to fire at P10. Right? Yes, the guys in the rec hex. So I'm going to repack that. All right, so I've got point blank range. 4 to make 4 becomes 4 to make 3. No HQ. 4. 2 hits. 2 potential hits, I should say. And then you've got 4 to make 5 reactive armor, 4 to make 4 Rex, 5 to make 4. Pretty good for practically being in the open.
Yeah, not bad.
And I see at least 2, 3. Yeah.
3.
All right.
Yep,
No hits. I will make my ammo check. Ammo check's really fast, but adds so much flavor. So, yeah, some flavor I'm not really liking, and it's not chocolate. This is why I bring chocolate milk to these demos. All right. So he fired the Jeep Tow. All right. Can we check the line of sight between the Jeep Tow and that's Q8? Q9, the woods in Q9.
Right here.
This one here, yeah.
Yep.
And I don't think it does, but I want to check it anyway. Nah,
not even close. Yeah.
All right, the Jeep Tow's going to fire into the town to hit the lead T80 for what it's worth. So I've got 4 dice to make 4. I am at effective range because it's a range of 7. So it's 4 dice to make 4. That's it. Basic toe shot. All right, I got 3. What's that line from the original Red Dawn? You know, it's like
Wolverines.
5 of them. No. It was when the pilot got shot down, and they're like, "Oh, no, I'm not." He's like, "Yeah, 5 of them came after me," and he's like, "Oh, you're not much of a pilot." Well, I got 4. All right, so did you roll your defense?
Nope, he hasn't rolled defense yet. He's got 6 dice to make 4s.
Yes.
No, 6 dice to make
No.
3s.
He's got 5. He's got 5 dice. He's not firing. He's defending. So he's
defending,
got
right.
So he's got 4 dice to make 5. 1 for the city. In soft targets in the city get 2.
Right.
Armor in the city get 1. So
but
that's 5 dice
but he's also
to make
firing,
5s.
firing a tow.
Reactive armor is 5 to 4, and then the tow into there. So he's 6 dice to make 4.
3 saves.
I see 3. 3 saves. 3 hits. 3 saves. All right. Did I make my ammo check?
You did make your ammo check.
I did make
You failed it.
I didn't put the ops complete mark.
Right.
There we go.
Or no, yeah, you failed the.
Yeah, that's all I can do.
Yep.
All right. We're pull back. Okay. Next card's going to be probably an ops complete.
Yep, it's going to be an ops complete because
I shouldn't say ops complete. It's an end operation.
Ops, yeah, end ops. All right.
Okay. Wow, we went another full turn, Art. That's unusual that the end operations come out at the end.
I'm shuffling them, I swear.
I know. All right, so we can take all these markers off.
Well, I will point out that we are at the top of the hour, 5 minutes till the top of the hour when our time is expiring. So actually, this was timed out just right for us. Art, did you have any input that you wanted to any comments you wanted to make about what you've learned and what you played with so far? And your mic is turned off in case you don't know.
There you go. Now I can speak. No, I appreciate you guys hosting.
Our pleasure.
It seems to play fast, and it's a simple system with some nuances that enhance it. I like the way you adjust the die rolls by either increasing the number of dice or increasing or decreasing the hit roll.
The 2-hit value.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, it was fun.
Excellent.
And that's what I play for today.
That's, yep.
I think we all kind of do that. But
Yep.
I agree.
You
Excellent.
know.
I'm glad you had a good time, for sure.
I did, and I like the system because there was a time when I was younger and was into heavier roll sets, but not so much anymore.
I hear you. Although I do miss the days of the original Avalon Hill Tobruk.
Yeah, rolling 50 dice for one infantry platoon. Yeah.
No, it was more like having the 40 millimeter Bofors and actually getting to roll 15 shots.
Yes.
And hitting turret rings.
Yeah, tell me about it. I did that in MBT, but that's a different story and a different game.
I think it's the book.
I hit the turret front actually, but
An advanced squad leader, but
yeah.
things that are easily playable now.
Yeah, I spent 30 years off and on with ASL, and about 4 or 5 years ago, it just got to the point I can't do this anymore. I don't have the time, the patience, or the interest. So yeah, these games like these much easier. Well, I don't want to say easier. Much rules lighter games definitely.
Well, no,
they're
they're easy. I mean, our goal has been to try and streamline things. Design in realism elements so you don't have to think about it. You just sort of start. I think for me, it's always been if I can explain a game, and that it does. I mean, I'm not really trying to toot my own horn, but when I like a game where, and my goal as a designer is to make a game where there's a minimum of explaining to the point where suddenly you're starting to talk tactics almost out of the gate,
right?
Rather than talking mechanics. That's my kind of game, and it's not for everybody, but that's my goal. That's my aim.
Yep.
It's a modernized Panzer Blitz and Panzer Leader.
Heavily influenced. I love those games. That's what I said. I used AIW to warm up tonight on Tabletop Simulator. I have my copy of AIW. The experimental rules in Panzer Leader, a lot of them made it into AIW. I love the whole design discussions they had in all those games. Even when they made mistakes, they're like, yeah, in Arab's Early War, we corrected all the movement values because it turned out we divided by the wrong number in Panzer Leader. And so if you want to play Panzer Leader with the corrected numbers, you do it. And I want to make a set of counters for Panzer Leader that have the corrected movement values.
They're out there.
Very different game. Oh, they are out there already?
Yeah. If on Facebook, there's a Panzer Leader, Panzer Blitz, Arab Israeli Wars Facebook group.
Oh, yeah.
And if you go in
That's
there
excellent.
and just ask about it, there are plenty of guys that have copies of the modified counters.
Because one thing I've had to learn as a designer is to make counters. Because nobody will make them for you. That's not true. David will make them for me if I ask them. Great.
All right, so I think we had a really good session tonight. I just want to remind everybody this is for the Armchair Dragoons. I want to thank everybody who joined us on Twitch. We've had probably close to 20, 25 people watching. Keith and I will be returning tomorrow for another game. Tomorrow's game is going to be at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard or Eastern Standard Time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Well, not same bat time, same bat channel. And tomorrow's game will be a little bit more advanced and will run for 3 hours. So if you're interested in stopping in for that, please do. I think that's all we got. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms in the comment section below. See ya. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.